Hi everyone, I'm Gabrielle. Have you ever seen a camel before? You know, the animal that lives in the desert and has a long neck, long legs, and a hump on his back? Do you ever wonder how the camel got his hump? Well, today I'm going to tell you a very special story by Rudyard Kipling about how the camel got his hump. In the beginning of years, when the world was so new and all the animals were just beginning to work for men, there was a camel. And he lived in the middle of the lonely, lonely desert, for he did not want to work. And besides, he was a loner himself. So he ate sticks and thorns and tamarisks and milkweed and pricks. Ugh. He was most frustratingly idle, and when anybody spoke to him, he said, "Humph!" Just humph and no more. Presently, on a Monday morning, the horse came to him, with a saddle on his back, and said, "Camel, come and trot like the rest of us." "Humph!" The camel humphed, and the horse went away to tell the man. The very next day, on a Tuesday morning, the dog came to him, with a stick in his mouth, and said, "Camel, come and fetch and carry like the rest of us." "Humph!" The camel humphed, and the dog went away to tell the man. On the very next morning, on a Wednesday morning, the ox came to him, with a yoke on his neck, and said, "Camel, come and plow like the rest of us." "Humph!" The camel humphed once again, and the ox went away to tell the man. On the next day, on a Thursday, the man called upon the horse, the dog, and the ox, and said, "3, I'm very sorry for you, but that humph thing in the desert can't work, or he would have been here by now. So I'm going to leave him all alone. The 3 of you must work double time to make up for it. I'm very, very sorry." Of course, this made the animals very, very angry, and they held a palaver and an indaba and a puncheon and a powwow on the edge of the desert, and came the camel, chewing milkweed, and laughed at them. "Ha ha 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 ha! Humph!" the camel humphed as he left the 3 alone. Presently came the Jinn of all deserts, rolled up in a cloud of dust. Jinns always travel that way, because they are magic. And he stopped by to palaver and powwow with the 3. "Ah, my dear animals." "Jinn of all deserts," said the horse, "is it right for anyone to lie idle with the world so new and all?" "Why, certainly not. Just because the world is so new and all doesn't mean we should all lie idle. In fact, we must all work hard. Together now," the Jinn replied. "Well, someone hasn't done a stroke of work since Monday morning. He won't fetch, trot, or even plow," the ox replied. "Ruff, ruff! It's true! He has a long neck, long legs, and he lives in the middle of your lonely desert. Please do us a favor and punish him, Jinn of all deserts," the dog barked. "Well, that's my camel, for all the gold in Arabia. My Bubbles. What does he say about that?" the Jinn asked. "All he ever says is humph and humph and humph," the horse replied. "Very well then, I'll humph him, if you will kindly wait a minute," the Jinn replied to them. And so the Jinn took his cloth, and he took a bearing across the desert, and found the camel, proudly looking at his own reflection in a pool of water. "Ah, my dear and bubbling friend," the Jinn greeted him. "What is this news I hear of you doing no work since Monday morning, with the world so new and all?" the Jinn asked. "Humph!" the camel humphed arrogantly. The Jinn sat down, with his hand on his chin, and began to think about great magic, about what spell would be perfect to teach his friend a lesson. The Jinn cherished the camel very dearly, and he surely doesn't want him to idle all his life. "Bubbles, You've given the three extra work ever since Monday morning, all on account of your idleness. Come on, Bubbles, you can't idle all your life, can you? The Jinn advised to him. And yet again, the camel replied with nothing but a humph. Humph! The camel humphed for the 100th time. I wouldn't say that again if I were you, the Jinn warned him. You might say it once too often, Bubbles. I really want you to work, just like all the other animals. I want you to make your life useful, Bubbles, the Jinn advised to him, gently. But then again, the camel replied with nothing but a humph. Humph! The camel grumbled. Not long after, the camel saw his back, that he was very proud of, as it puffed up and up into a great, big, looping humph. A bit rusty, but my magic still works like a charm, the Jinn mumbled. Do you see that, Bubbles? That's your very own humph that you've brought upon your very own self by not working. Today is Thursday, and you've done no work since Monday morning. Now, I demand you at once to work, Bubbles, no questions asked, the Jinn explained to him. But how can I, with this hump on my back? The camel argued. You see, that's made on purpose. Just because you missed those 3 whole days of not working, now you will be able to work for 3 days with no food or water, because you can live off of your humph. Now, get out of this lonely desert and join the 3 and behave. Humph yourself. You must make up for the 3 days you missed, and don't you ever say I never did anything for you, Bubbles, the Jinn explained to him. And so the camel humphed himself, humph and all, and went away to join the 3, with an oath to always work hard for the rest of his life. And from that day on, the camel never idled ever again, and he always works hard upon his master. He then worked in the desert, for he could survive without food or water for 3 whole days because of his humph, which we call a hump now, not to hurt his feelings. And that is the story of how the camel got his hump, and why people always ride camels along their journey through the desert. The end. From this story, we learned that our lives would be much more valuable if we work hard and be useful and helpful to others as well. As the younger generation and future leaders of our country, we must always put our best effort in everything that we do. Although as teenagers, we might face countless challenges, especially in this pandemic. Despite our limitations, we've found so many new ways to channel our creativity through our creations using technology. Of course, none of this would be possible without all the hard work that we've done together. With that being said, we must all continue to distribute our creativity and hard work to make an infinity of creations together. I'm Gabrielle, and thank you so much for listening to my story.